The first week of Donald Trump's administration has really been about two things, and they're connected. The first of which is distraction. Donald Trump wants to distract from the fact that he is already breaking promises. He is already failing, that he is already betraying the people who elected him to bring down cost. And not only is he not bringing down cost, but they are actually skyrocketing in the most important places right now. And the second most important part of his administration has been the culture wars that he is fighting, because, of course, Donald Trump has no substantive policy. And if he can just keep us fighting the culture wars, like I said, these things tied together, will be distracted from his failures. And, of course, one of those culture wars that Donald Trump is fighting is with his disgusting transphobia, which Republican Congressman and Trump stooge Dan Kahl went on Caitlin Collins' show last night to defend. And Caitlin Collins wasn't having it, calling out Dan Kahl and a take-on that I want to get into. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really means the world to me now. Let's get into this interview.
But let me ask you about some of the executive orders that Trump has been signing, because you have said that any American who is willing and able to serve in the military should be allowed to do so. Do you oppose Trump's ban on trans people serving in the military?
No, not at all. I mean, I'm not sure where you got that quote, but you could find a lot of other quotes from me that would say that we should never allow anyone in the military to undergo transition surgery, which would make them medically unqualified to deploy and therefore reduce the readiness of the military. So I'm not sure what President Trump is going to do exactly on this policy. It's probably going to look a lot like his last administration, which was, you can say that you're another sex, but you can't undergo treatments to become another sex, because once you do that, you make yourself unready to deploy. It's the medical procedures themselves
disqualify you. But there are trans people who serve in the military right now who would disagree with that.
They can disagree all they want. I'm the one who's, I know what war is like, and I know what it takes to deploy. I was not allowed to deploy for vision issues. Now, what if you need to be on a bunch of medications and your entire body has been changed radically into another gender? It makes it very difficult to deploy you into the places that we need to deploy you. I had to be medically retired for my condition, and my condition arguably is far less severe than undergoing a transition to a different gender.
Yeah, but people obviously take medical leave from the military all the time in return. And you said you didn't know what quote I was talking about. This is from 2021. This is the quote.
Yeah, I'm sure I said that, but I think people should be able to serve openly and tell people what their identity is. And anybody who can meet those standards should be able to serve. And then And then I probably went on to say, if the conversation was about transgenderism in the military, I probably, in that interview, went on to say exactly what I just said, because I've never changed my mind on this.
So when you say, I think people should be able to serve openly and tell people what their identity is, anyone who can meet those standards, I mean, aren't you arguing that those people, that if someone who is trans is in the military and they can meet the standards, that they should be able to serve? I don't know that. Why would you be making that decision and not a medical professional or someone who makes those decisions about vision or whatever issues they evaluate before deploying somebody? I'm saying, by definition, if you have transitioned into a different gender, you are not meeting our medical standards. Right, but that's your opinion.
You're creating, no, it's not an opinion. That is a pretty easy, that's an easy to prove fact. It makes it much harder on our units to deploy, period, like full stop.
But then how are there trans people serving in the military right now, sir?
There's a difference between identifying, like, again, look, you could, Caitlin, you could show up to your job the next day and say that your name is now, Ken. That's different. You can identify that way, and that was Trump's old policy, by the way. They would allow you to serve that way. But there's a very big difference between doing that and actually undergoing medical procedures that take you out of service. And yeah, you call it medical leave, but that's some pretty severe medical leave. So why would we allow that? And to say that you're deployable to austere environments, no way. That's just not true.
Okay, but so Congressman,
I've never changed my mind on that.
The executive order is banning all trans people, period. It's not making a caveat that you're making there.
I don't think we've seen the text of the order, have we? I don't have the text.
This is how it's been described to us by our sources. Are you telling us that it makes that distinction?
I don't have the text. If you're making me guess on what the text is, I have a feeling it'll look a lot like the last administration. We don't know yet.
Okay, so you're in favor of this, though, regardless.
Yes, yeah. My position on this has always been very clear. So,
Congressman Dan Crenshaw, thank you for your time.
Set aside the disgusting transphobia. Set aside the disgusting bigotry that is at the heart of everything that Donald Trump does, the fact that a gerfed Dodger is telling people who volunteered to serve our country to potentially give their lives in service of protecting freedom, of protecting our Constitution. And something Donald Trump regularly wipes his ass with is disgusting. It's disgraceful. People are volunteering, giving their lives because they love our country. And Donald Trump, who did everything he could to avoid service, is telling them, no, that is a whole separate bucket of bad, is absurd. The fact that we are back to this point where the commander-in-chief is this guy, it's Captain Bonespurs, or I guess we should call him Private Bonespurs. I don't know how much distinction he'd get, is just appalling. And that is what the Trump administration is about. I saw someone asked yesterday, what is the point of this action cruelty? The cruelty is the point. The cruelty is always the point with Donald Trump and MAGA, and it is the same with their immigration plan, which Caitlin Collins also called out last night in an interview with Donald Trump's Borders, or Tom Homan, that we're going to check out right here.
The cost of this operation is expensive. It's expensive to enforce the laws and protect our national security, but I don't put a price tag on securing that border. Once we secure the border, we show consequences. The number's already down. We had like 500 crossings in one day. Compare that to 10 to 12,000 a day under Biden.
Right,
500
but why is it better
that's
to
one
use
of
a
the lowest I've seen in my
military
34-year career.
But why is it better to use a military plane that costs so much more than just a chartered plane, which is what was happening before?
Charter planes are still running at full capacity. This is just an added thing, and they can put a lot more people on a plane rather than they can make a long distance, such as going to Colombia. We'll use them for European removal. So it makes sense to fill that plane up with a lot of people and get them moving. Again, it's an added asset because our air contracts now are full, 100% capacity. So as we add more flights, I'm sure we'll add more charter flights. But right now, DOD is working with us on the border, building infrastructure. Obedience and denial. They're down there putting razor wire up, and they're flying planes.
Okay.
They're also going to probably do some ground transportation. We're going to use DOD.
And I should note that we are told that the Department of Homeland Security will not be reimbursing the Pentagon for these flights. That sometimes is the case, but we were told today that that's not the case. On what you said earlier about your big priority right now is deporting public safety threats and national security threats. How does changing the ICE policy that allows agents to conduct arrests and enforcement at churches and schools help with that?
There's no safe haven for public safety threats and national security threats. People say, well, were you really going to a high school? Well, people need to look at the MS-13 members and Tren de Agua members who entered this country, a majority between the ages of 15 and 17. Many are attending our schools. And they're selling drugs in the schools, and they're doing strong arm robberies of other students. So we not go into schools or hospitals as a matter of practice, but if it's a significant public safety threat or a significant homeland security threat, there's no safe haven. We'll go where we need to go to take them off the street.
But you obviously are someone, you've been working on the border for years, sir. I mean, you got an award from President Obama for people who don't know watching, and you also, have worked through these administrations. This was the policy that's been in place, I believe, since 2011, and it wasn't changed before. I mean, do you have any reason to believe that elementary schools or churches are harboring, these violent immigrants who are here illegally?
Like I said, when the circumstances arise, we got a national security threat, a significant public safety threat, we're going to go where we got to go, whether it's a school, a church, or a hospital. The national security is important. And look, name another law enforcement agency. Does the FBI have those requirements? No. Does DA have those requirements? No. So I shouldn't have those requirements either. We have a national security responsibility. We're going to take those people off the street. If it's out of school, that's what we're going to do. Again, it takes a lot to get approval to go into school or church, but if there's a national security threat, we're going.
What does it take? What is the standard, I guess, to go into an elementary school? Because what we had heard from immigration advocates is that this is going to provide a chilling effect to parents in the school drop-off line or something of that matter.
It shouldn't be a chilling effect unless their child is a terrorist or a public safety threat. If they are a public safety threat and national security threat, they should be chilled. They should be afraid because we're looking for them.
Well, if their parent is here and they're an undocumented immigrant, I think was more of the argument that they were making.
They're not off the table either. I mean, they're in the country illegally, they got a problem. I mean, it's not okay. Look, it's not okay to enter this country illegally. It's a crime. And that's the way it's supposed to be. I wouldn't feel comfortable if I'm in Switzerland illegally. So we're going to enforce the laws of this country. So, the schools and the churches and central location was a policy only for ICE. only for immigration, right? But national security threats and public safety threats have no safe haven in this country, and we'll go where we got to go.
Have you gone into any schools or churches yet that you know of personally?
Not yet this operation.
ICE raids of schools, ICE raids of churches. Does Donald Trump wants to make sure that there's no place that people feel safe, that they feel comfortable? That is what this administration is about, is this fear and angst police state that they're trying to impose. So everyone capitulates, everyone bends the knee, and everyone falls in line. And we cannot allow that to happen. We have to continue to call this out, and we're going to every single day on the show. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video, and if you're stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. Until next time, I'll see you soon.